Good afternoon. My name is Donna Thiesel, and I'm your host of Donna's Edge Talk Show, where truth matters. Thank you so much for watching every day, Monday through Friday, beginning at 1 p.m. Central Time, as I get to ride home with you in the afternoon with my wonderful guest, Julia. We'll be talking with her in just a few minutes. You can find us on television, Channel 182, on Charter Communications and Abundant Television, syndicated, found on Roku, Apple TV, and Amazon Fire. And don't forget the podcast on thenewscasters.com. Continue sending those emails. I'm just telling you, they make my day. And if you would like for me to do a little research for you, I'll be glad to do that. Any topic you're very interested in, which is why you keep asking for Julia Christine, and help on relationships. What in the world's going on in this world? Is it me? Is it everybody else? What in the world is it? Julia, tell us a little bit about yourself.
What is going on? My name is Julia Christine, as you mentioned, and I am an intuitive healer. I work with people to actually do just that, help them kind of be able to manage their own energy so that they can move through the world in peace and not allow all of the outside kind of, excuse me, but BS affect them, affect you and your life. It absolutely is possible to live the life you want within the construct of the world we live in.
Mm-hmm. Sometimes there's that little still small voice that will tell you something is just not quite right.
Yeah, hopefully that still small voice grows louder and louder, and we listen to it more and more, and we end up living that life that we want. Because it's what we're here to do, right?
Yeah, and we're here to help each other. I feel, because when I've been asked myself, my whole response is, "Why do you think you're here on Earth?" To help other people. And sometimes, I've been through some really strange experiences, I consider strange. And then you wonder, why am I going through this? Well, it's because I can actually help other folks, because other people you're not the only one in the world who goes through weird stuff.
That's very true. That's very true. And actually, so go ahead.
But what is weird? Is weird bad?
Weird. What is weird? What's weird for you might not be weird for me at all. And that's the thing that we have to remember as we go through everything. When we use very strong words, we were talking about vocabulary earlier, when we use very strong words like good or bad or weird or hard or easy, what's good for me might not be good for you, but does that make it bad? No. It just means it's not for you. And so you might go through a weird situation and you get through it. And honestly, when you go through some of those weird and harder times, you end up learning a whole lot about yourself, about your past, about how you want to live your life. And that's what those weird challenges are for. That's for us to kind of hone in our perspective and hone in our opinions about how we feel about life. And then that allows us to say, oh, okay, I know more now that I don't like this, which means I like this. And so I'm going to move in this direction. And so we better attune ourselves to what works. So when you have obstacles, or you have what I like to call contrast come into your life, maybe switch your perspective instead of being like, oh, darn, this is hard and I have to do all this. But you know what? A lot of times that contrast comes into your life to help you figure out what you like and what you don't like and how to move forward to avoid those types of things in the future.
Well, and then you go through different phases in your life, something you didn't like to do back when you were younger. When you get 65 years old, you think, hey, I dig it. Of course, dig the word. I can carry that. I'm not so sure you can. You could be my daughter.
No, I'm not sure I can.
But really, what's weird or strange to some people isn't to other people.
Exactly.
So those are things that we just have to get through. Now, we've been receiving a lot of emails. By contrast, most of the emails are about, I feel like I can't breathe. I feel like I'm suffocating. Is that something we do to ourselves, or is that something brought on us? What does this mean?
Well, I think this is huge, actually. And I think that as far as answering the question about, is that something that we do to ourselves? Remember that in every situation, and I'm not going to lie, this took me a long time to be able to swallow. And that is that no one and nothing can make you anything. So if you say like, oh my gosh, I had such a bad day at work, my boss made me so mad. No one can make you mad. You allowed their behavior to affect you, to make you mad, but you allowed that to happen. And so when we start to feel suffocating, and suffocated by the things that are going on around us, yeah, we are allowing ourselves for that to happen. And so when I think about the word suffocating, I'm actually like, it's weird because as soon as you said that, I can like feel it. Like I feel the walls closing in around me, and then there's this and there's all this stuff. And like, how do you breathe in that situation when you literally feel like you're drowning with all of this stuff? And like, I want you to take a minute. What makes you feel that way? And usually it's going to be things like, I got to get myself to work, but I got to get the kids ready. And then we have to do this. And oh my gosh, I have to pay that bill. And how are we going to pay the mortgage this month? And oh my gosh. And then my boss is on my back about this project and I just don't have time to accomplish it. I got to get those kids to practice now. Oh my gosh, I have to pay for their soccer fees. How am I going to afford that? Like da da da. And on top of all of this feelings, I have to make a pie for the church freaking baked, whatever it is. And it's like, what about you? What about you? And all this stuff. But I want you to notice, like, I don't know about you, but I can feel that anxiety in my body right now, having worked myself up talking about it.
Uh-huh.
And really what I'm doing is I'm looking, everything I talked about was outside of myself. All of the things that are giving us the wars, the dissension about politics, all of this stuff, it's piling on top of us. But remember, it's all outside of us. And anxiety comes from us putting fear and worry into something about the future. And what we're doing is we're giving our power away, honestly, but we're putting things in and thoughts and energy into things that haven't happened yet, into things that we don't have any control over. Your control, your power is right here, which is why you feel like everything's closing in on you, because right here this is your nexus of power. And so what you do is you take a breath and you breathe and you get what taking that one breath, I usually like to say 3, because by the third one, you have a sense of calm come over you. Mm-hmm. If you can take 3 breaths when you're starting to feel claustrophobic or shut in on, or what is that word? Strangled. What's the word? Anyway, when you're starting to feel that way, take those 3 breaths, because what that does is it brings you into this present moment. This present moment is all you have. It is all you're in control of. And so now from this present moment, what I'm going to do right this second to make me feel better is this. I'm going to let go, not let go. I'm going to release the pressure on those things. I'm just going to push them back just a minute. I can't address all of them right now. So I'm going to allow those things to fade out. And sometimes what I like to do is imagine those different things, and I'll tie like a little string and attach it to my pinky, attach it to this finger. And I'm going to put them out like they're balloons, and they're out and they're away from me. So they're not closing in. I'm not going to forget about them because I've attached them to myself. Right. But they're there, and I'll think about them in a second, but I can't think about them all at once. So, okay, now I have all my balloons attached to my fingers. What is the most pressing one that I have to think about right now? What's going to happen in the next 24 hours? This one. Okay, reel that one in. Okay, how can I look at this? And we take it slow by little by little. But all of that comes down to that moment of breath. And I feel like I can hear people saying like, oh, that's so much easier said than done. You don't understand. I'm stressed and I'm this and I'm all of these things. Great, cool. I've been there. I promise I do understand. And regardless of the situation, take a breath. And I always encourage people, I don't know if I've actually said this here or not, but carry around a bottle of water, not just because you need the hydration and the energy that you get from the water. Yes, that is absolutely true. But if you carry around a bottle of water, Donna, if you said something that triggered me, that I instantly reacted to because we have a difference of opinion about something. If I have a bottle of water or a cup of coffee and I take a sip, I just bought myself 10 seconds. And that 10 seconds gave me this much space so that I can decide if I want to react and be angry or allow what you said to make me mad, or if I want to just respond and say, you know what, Donna, I don't agree with you, but we can talk about this later. Right now, I have to take care of something else. Mm-hmm. Or you know what, Donna? I love that you feel like you can give me your opinion. It's not my opinion. We don't share that. And we can have a conversation, but let's have a conversation knowing that we maybe don't see eye to eye on this. And now we're not reacting. Now we're not adding that stress. And all I did was take a sip of coffee. So if you carry a water, I mean, if I put my finger up and said, hang on, Donna, I'm being triggered. I need a breath. You know what I mean?
I know what that means from this point on.
Every time I take a sip, you're like, "Ooh, I must have said something."
Whoa. Let me give you an indication. So let's go back to the year 1999.
Okay.
So Phil and I owned an internet company at this time. It was a dial-up internet. It was big back in the day, before the high power.
Right.
And so we were hearing all this crazy information. And to us, it was crazy because we were kind of inside that world of the internet and inside the world of computers and all those things that were happening. But it was like all over the place. It was being broadcast on every news channel that the Y2K bug, everybody's computers are going to shut down. We're not going to have, everything you've got is going to be erased, blah, blah, blah. So what we did, instead of listening to all that nonsense, we had this geek guy. I mean, this guy was like, he knew computers inside and out. No degree, nothing like that, but street smart.
Right.
The brightest human on earth as far as we were concerned. So we had to come in and he looked at it and he said, that's not going to happen. And I said, well, I'm just trying to figure out. It was just hyped up information from the news and everybody was listening to it. People were coming in like, I'm going to lose everything. They were going to pieces. Our customers were just going nuts about this whole thing.
Right.
And that were paying big bucks to get it fixed. And we kept telling them, you don't have to do that. Nothing is going to happen because this dude comes in and he said, no, I've already done the little clock on mine, thinking if it happens, it'll just don't happen on mine. And he did the clock. Nothing happened. So I said that to say this. So many people were panicking. They were losing their breath. They were afraid to go into business, all of this kind of stuff going on. And it didn't happen. And I felt like, I'm like an evangelist. I'm out there to tell everybody, stop. It's not going to happen. And it didn't. After that, though, I was like, is there something wrong with me? Am I speaking like
No.
Something to
No. And here's the thing. We've talked a little bit about this before. We live in a society that thrives on fear. And there's all kinds of things I can say about why. About, like, honestly, if this could be controversial, if a government keeps its people in fear, they have more control. Yeah. And so what are we given? We're given little bits of information. Some of it's true. Maybe all of it's true, but some of it's exaggerated just a little bit. And some of it's going to be from this perspective. And some of it's going to be from this perspective. And that way, those people are going to go at each other. They're talking about the same damn thing. But because we've twisted the perspective just a little bit, they're each on their high horse. Cool. Now we can go ahead and continue to do what we're doing for our agenda. There's a little bit of conspiracy theory in there, and I understand that. But I do believe ultimately fear helps us. Fear is what we're talking about. Let's just put it that way. Whether it helps us be controlled or not. There is fear in religion. There is fear in government. There is fear everywhere.
There's
and the
fear
media.
Do I like Coke or Pepsi?
Right.
There's fear about everything.
Right. How about it's all bad for you? Stop drinking it. But the thing is that we live in fear. And you know what? I just said it's all bad for you. Let's stop drinking it. Okay. Why? Because everybody says it's going to cause cancer. It's going to do this. It's going to do all of this stuff. Use your common sense to say, this has this much sugar in it. Is sugar good for me? We all know it's not. But is it going to kill me if I have one a week? No. So I'm not telling you stop drinking it for the rest of your life. While I personally believe that wouldn't be the worst thing for you, if you want a Coke every now and then, have a Coke every now and then. Maybe don't drink it all day, every day. Because, scientifically, we've proven that that's not exactly good for us. Mm-hmm. But don't live in fear of it. And that's why you stop. Do you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Buying into the fear keeps us stressed, anxious, worried about things that haven't happened yet and things that kind of don't even exist. Why are you wasting? I heard there's a quote. I wish I knew who said it, but it's something along the lines of worry oh gosh, now I'm not going to even be able to do it. But worry is like living a bad experience twice. Why would you do that to yourself? And so, like, why would you be so worried that you're experiencing it in your head in a negative way, and then it inevitably happens in a negative way? Because I also believe when you put your energy into something, you bring it to you. So if you're putting your energy into the fear of what's coming, you're kind of bringing that thing to you. Now, on a wider world level, on a Y2K thing, people spent so much money. Whoever started that whole thing made a mint off of all of those people. And so here's the thing. What's in your control? Is if Y2K happens, we'll deal with it when it happens. But why would I worry about it in January when I got 12 months to live my best life? If the world's going to explode on December 31st or January 1st at midnight, why would I waste 12 months of my life worrying about it? You know what I mean? Because there's nothing I can do about it if it does. So
no, and I've got an answer for the whole political thing. Here's my answer to this. Okay, and it's very simple. You believe your way, I believe my way. Don't worry about it. Just vote.
Yeah.
Well, that's all you got to do. You don't have to get on Facebook. Right. You don't have to like go crazy. I mean, you don't have to do that. All you're doing is just feeding into the nuttiness in this world.
And this is fascinating to me because I used to be, before I made some pretty massive changes in my life, I used to be very political, and I would be very angry, and like I wouldn't be in chat rooms. I wouldn't go that far, but I was really angry and didn't understand how people couldn't see my point of view, and I would try to change people's minds. And I remember realizing, like, Julia, nobody's going to change your mind. What makes you think that you're going to change anybody else's mind? And so taking a step back, that was the first step. But now where I am, and something that came into my existence recently, was this idea that somebody else having a different opinion of me. I have people who I love so much in my life, and we are diametrically opposed on a political level. We do not see the same way. Not only don't we support the same candidate, but we don't have the same views about much of anything. I love these people and they love me. And I know that they don't wish harm on anybody. But in my mind, everything that they believe in is harmful to people. In their mind, everything I believe in is harmful to people. They're just completely different perspectives. And me talking to them and having a rational conversation allows me to, like I said before, pick and choose the things that their opinions, their differences are actually making me more aware of my beliefs. Mm-hmm. And that's why we have differences. That's why there's variety in the universe, is so that we can more and more fine-tune our beliefs, our desires, and then tell the universe, this is my desire. And the universe says yes, and then we go for it. And that is how the universe continues to expand. That is how, like, this is getting a little like woo-woo, but I don't care, because this is what I believe in. But it actually, when this idea came into my existence, I was like, this is incredible, because now I can appreciate the people who I disagree with, because they're helping me understand what I believe in I already know what I believe in. No. Listen to what they're saying. And if you think that what they're saying is absolutely ridiculous, then you know that you're right where you need to be. It doesn't mean that they're ridiculous. It means that you know your position more solidly now. You know your desires, and you can approach everything that you are in opposition to this way and have gratitude and appreciation for that difference. Mm-hmm. And that's then how you spread more love. Because now I'm looking at these people who I used to shake my fist at, even though I love them, and actually say, wow, I really appreciate you. And I appreciate that. And I'm sending love to you through my appreciation and my gratitude. And that's the energy that I'm then cultivating. And that's the energy. The more we love, the more we're grateful. That's the energy that we're literally creating. And that's the only thing, Donna, that is going to combat the dissension in this country, the devastation and destruction that's happening around the world. Don't hate Israel or Palestine or whoever. Don't hate those people, because all you're doing is fueling hate. You can disagree with that, but send their leaders compassion. Send whichever leader you feel like is making the wrong decision compassion and say, please think about the people before you make these choices. I'm sending you love and understanding so that you have more of it to contribute to those decisions. And that way, I am emanating loving energy. I am not contributing to hate. I don't agree with it, but that doesn't matter. What matters is you need some understanding. You need some more empathy and compassion for what you're actually doing to the world, let alone these people, regardless of whatever side of the debate or controversy you stand on. Send that. You don't have to like it, but send them what they need, which is
you're
love
saying
and
exactly
compassion.
what God says. You're saying exactly what God says. God says, pray for your enemies.
Yes.
And there are people who will just like, okay, so a contractor is at our house, okay, and he is just like the world's worst contractor.
Oh no.
He's terrible.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
He was terrible. So this is what I mean. It had to come, and I've never sued anybody before in my life except this one person. And believe me, I've had reasons I could have.
Yeah.
So we had to because he just really messed it up.
Right.
And so we don't pray that he can't keep a job. We don't pray any of that stuff. I want him to because he pays us every single month for the mistakes he made.
Right.
Why would I?
If he doesn't get work, how's it going to pay me?
That's the whole point. So it's like, why would you be cursing the guy?
Right.
I mean, there's no reason to
Right.
do that. And he understands what he did. And I think we
Right.
have to pay for it. I mean, how many times in my business has my customers bought something that was defective?
Right.
Well, I would take ownership of that, especially the cell phone business. You never knew when you took a phone out of a box it was going to work.
Yeah.
So you were hoping it would.
Right.
And so what we did, we had to figure out a new way. So what we would do is if phones came in from shipment, we would automatically go ahead and plug those things in because they don't come with, charged up. So that's what we started doing to combat that. And then that way we could send that phone back to the company. I didn't have to take a loss on it.
Yeah.
And so you just have to get smarter about the things you do. And like you and I have this huge disagreement. I don't know if you realize this or not. Julia's going, what are you talking about?
I got my coffee ready. I'm just kidding.
You live in New York.
I do.
It's darn cold there in the wintertime. I hate snow. I can drive in it, but I don't like it. But the reason I don't like snow is here in the South, here in Alabama, it's ice.
Right.
So I had to be in New York to figure out, wait a minute, their snow is different from our ice. Now it all looks white and it all looks pretty when it hits, but I still can't see myself living in New York. And you probably can't see yourself living here in the humidity.
No. I mean, it's humid here, but
we got to go meet halfway, right? We're going to have to meet halfway. We're going to have to get where it's not so hot, not so cold. Because I'm telling you, the older I get, the worse it is to these bones.
Right. So, well, maybe we do is when it's hot and gross in Alabama, we come to New York, and when it's snowy and yucky in here, we go somewhere else. That's a great compromise.
But that's the only disagreement I can think of.
Yeah. I was really gearing myself up. I was like, "Oh, interesting. What's she going to say?"
What's going to do now? But the weather is a big thing. Like when we go on vacations, I want to go to the beach. I want to go where it's just so hot, where you can, Well, Phil, my husband, I don't want to be at the beach. I want to go to the mountains.
Yeah.
He wants to go where it's cold, and I've got to wear a coat and a sweater all the time. But you can even make that marriage work. So
absolutely.
We find somewhere that works.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
And I think that's what's happening is we don't want to try to move over to the left a little or to the right a little. We want to be, no, it's my way or the doorway.
Right. Well, that's the thing, though. I feel like you don't have to. You can absolutely be right where you are. But that doesn't mean that I'm wrong because you want to stay where you are and I want to stay where I am. That doesn't mean that you're wrong. It just means that me standing in this space is what works for me. This is my truth. It doesn't have to be your truth. You don't have the same experiences that I do. So why on earth would I expect you to have the same perspective on any of these issues as I do? We have very different upbringings. We have very different lives. We have very different experiences. There's no way that anyone should expect another person to feel the same way about anything as they do. because we've all had different experiences from the moment we've taken our first breath and before then, really, you know? So what we get in this in our head that everybody has to see things the same way. What a boring place this would be
Oh
if
my
we didn't
goodness.
have those differences. I'm so grateful for the differences that we have because they teach me more about me
Mhm.
and allow me to figure out how to live the life that I want to live that much more.
Well, people have a perception about us. So Phil and I were on a missionary trip to Africa. We went to South Uganda,
Mm,
and we don't think of ourselves as anything. I mean, we just don't. We're just people who are walking on the earth trying to make it work. That's all we do in helping other folks.
right.
So we arrive in South Uganda, and so several other people went with us. And at the gate were some banana trees,
Mm-hmm.
one on each side. And so I'm not thinking much of it. And so the person who was actually living there, she was a missionary, were living there. She said, "Do you know what that means? They think you're dignitaries." And I looked at Phil and I said, "Us? I mean, we are no dignitary.
What?
We are just because we're from the United States." So it was a sacrifice to them to cut down banana trees. That's what they did.
Mm,
It was a sacrifice for them to cut down those big trees and put them up at the gate to welcome us into the village. And I said, "I don't know how to say how humbled I am. There's nothing, I mean, we're just plain folks who walk on earth. That's all we are. And we're just there to help." So,
well, and then this is another thing that's really interesting with that example specifically. So often we give and we give and we give, but every now and then, actually more often than that, it's really important to receive. And what an amazing gift that entire, whatever, if it was like a town or a tribe or whatever it was that did that for you, what an amazing honor. I received that. Thank you so much. It was totally not necessary, but wow, how huge is that? Thank you. I received that.
mhm.
Receiving is just as important as giving.
Because
Allow the people that are around you to give you gifts.
Mhm.
Allow them to. I remember I'm a giver and I'm a doer. I do for other people, and for a long time it was actually kind of toxic behavior. I would do more for the people everywhere in my life than I would even pretend to do for me. And so I was so busy doing for other people that somebody did something for me and I didn't know how to handle it. And my friend said to me, "Julia, give them a gift. Give them the gift of
Mhm.
letting them do this for you. Consider it a gift that I'm taking you to lunch. And
Mhm.
give me that gift of being able to do this for you." So if that helps change your perspective about receiving, it's really important. It's really important to have that exchange with the people in your life, to give and to receive.
Mhm.
Just putting that
But
out there.
I've had that situation before, and I was like that once too. And I
Mhm.
don't know, I just don't know. I've got to always be the one giving. I can't receive anything. In my thing, I just didn't think I was worthy of it.
And exactly.
And
Yeah.
so, I mean, I just didn't. And I thought, well, what am I doing to receive a gift?
Right.
That was my whole point. And then someone did the exact same thing to me, and I remember how I felt. And I changed that attitude because I was giving this person a gift, and they said, "No, no, no, don't. You keep that. You keep that." What it felt like to me, because they didn't receive it, was like, "Oh my goodness, my gift wasn't good enough."
Right. Right.
So then I
Right.
thought, have I been doing that to people?
Right.
That was not the intention on my.
No, it's not the intention, but that is such a good thing to bring up about how it made you feel when someone
Mhm.
didn't receive the gift you were. It's my gift. Why wouldn't I? But I love you. Why wouldn't you want to receive something from me? Like all of that. It is an exchange, and it is really important to be able to receive from the people in your life, from the universe. Like literally, it is such a glorious day outside today. Like that's why I look like I'm bright as anything, because I can't close my blinds. The sky is blue. There's beautiful white billowy clouds. I step outside and I just receive a beautiful day,
Mhm.
thanking God or the universe or whoever you thank. Like seriously, like wow, I'm receiving that. It changes everything to be able to receive. And I think that especially as women, I'm going to say that We are trained from an early, early age that we take care of everybody, that we are the nurturers, we are the caregivers. We have to take care of our family. We take care of our friends. We take care of everybody except ourselves.
Mhm.
And when we take care of ourselves, that's being selfish. I'm sorry, Donna, I'm calling BS on that.
I
That's
am.
not true. You cannot take care of anyone unless you're taking care of yourself. All of those things start to add up, and all of a sudden we're getting suffocated again because there's too many people and responsibilities for us to take care of because we haven't taken care of ourselves. Give yourself the time to take those 3 breaths. I usually encourage 3 to 5 minutes. And if you can't find 3 minutes for yourself, that's something to look at.
Mhm.
And at the very least, breathe while you're on the toilet, because you spend time in there. You know what I mean? You kind of can't help it. So take that time for yourself.
Thank you for that visual. And
Yeah, you're
speaking
welcome.
of
Yeah,
that,
anytime.
anytime, girlfriend. So let's go ahead and get into a commercial break.
Okay.
We'll return in just a few minutes. No, great analogy. Great analogy.
Yeah.
We'll be right back. Queen City Used Car Sales has been serving drivers in the Northeast Alabama area for years with a quality selection of late model used cars, SUVs, and pickup trucks. On top of our extensive selection and competitive prices, we offer professional auto financing services for used car buyers of all credit levels. Whether you've just begun your search or you're ready to secure your next vehicle, at Twin City Used Car Sales, you will drive away with the vehicle of your dreams. The sales and finance staff at Twin City Used Car Sales looks forward to serving you, and you can apply for financing online before your visit to our used dealership in Gadsden, Alabama. Check us out on the web at twincityusedcars.com or go by our location at 901 First Avenue, Gadsden, Alabama. We sincerely look forward to serving you. At Lamone's Mexican Restaurant, located in Henniger, Alabama, and voted Best Mexican Restaurant of DeKalb County, Alabama 2020, we're here to serve you with authentic Mexican cuisine. Order easily online by going to lamonsmex.com or call 256-657-3999 to place your order. We're open Sunday through Thursday, 11 a.m. to 9 p.m., and Friday and Saturday, 11 a.m. to 10 p.m. Whether you're celebrating a cozy date night for 2 or a celebration for a crowd, at Lamone's you'll love our atmosphere and friendly servers. Thank you for dining with Lamone's Mexican Restaurant. Okay, we're back. My name is Donna, and I'm your host of Donna's Edge Talk Show, where truth definitely matters. You can find us on television, channel 182 on Charter Communications. Abundance Television can be found on Roku, Apple TV, and Amazon Fire. I want to thank Rob Patz for making that happen. We've been with him for 3 years now, and he saw something I didn't see. And so he called one day. And Rob owns radio and television stations all across the country, even in Australia, by the way. And so he knew me from way back then when my show started 19 years ago, a little bit over 19 years. And so we just happened to get in contact with each other. You know, people you have acquaintances with, I don't believe in burning bridges. And so we hadn't spoken in years. And all of a sudden we made contact, and he said, I want that show on my TV station, on my whole network. Right. And I'm going, say what? And he said, no, I want it on there. I said, so you can make fun of my Southern accent? Is that what you're talking about? And he said, no, I want it on there. You got good topics, including folks like Julia Christine. And so we've been there over 2 years and definitely appreciate it. Rob, thank you for making that happen. You can also find our podcast on thenewscasters.com, and continue sending those emails, because when I hear from you, I know the shows you would like to see, and I know the content that we can have. And it's all about you anyway. You know, I'm just your messenger right here. And you boss me. You tell me what to do. And I love being bossed by you, by the way. I don't say that frequently. I never say that to my husband, but I will say to you. I love it when he gives me the insight I need, because we work as a team. His idea of things and situations and how you approach it are totally different from mine. And we don't need everybody handling things the way I would do it, because it would be like, done it in a snap, it would be like that. And sometimes you have to sit back and you have to see the situation you're in. And sometimes I can't see the forest for the trees. I get too into it. So it takes someone to pull me back just a little bit and say, no, wait a minute. I want you to look at those trees there, okay? And look at, there's a forest behind there. So I need that. And speaking of which, Julia Christine is good at that. We've been talking about breathing. And I think the first 30 minutes is absolutely awesome, because we're seeing what can get us to that point. How do you breathe? I mean, what are you talking about, Julia?
What I'm talking about is focused breath. Obviously, you breathe every day. I actually, when I first started getting into breathing, I got a book. It's right up there, and it's called Breathe. And I honestly don't remember who wrote it, but one of the quotes that is in there is, "Breathe like your life depends on it," because it does. Like, you have to breathe. And if you think about it, we've been talking a lot about fear and anxiety and worry. And if you're watching a scary movie, even, what happens when something scares you? You go like this, and you hold your breath. And really, the way to get through something that is causing fear or worry is to breathe your way through it instead of holding your breath. When you hold your breath, there's no movement. You stay stuck. You stay in fear instead of breathing and allowing yourself to work through.
Well, and you can't think logically either, because I know when, okay, I've had to stop the car. I mean, like on the brakes, like immediately. You can't breathe, and it's like I can't even think.
Yeah.
So this also helps with your brain. It's brain health. It's
Oh my goodness.
And oxygen is food for the brain.
Absolutely. So there are breath work courses that you can take. Like, literally breath work is amazing. There are different types of breathing that you can do that will alter your physical chemistry, like your body's chemistry. You can breathe, like, there's all different kinds of techniques. That's not what I do, but I absolutely advocate it. Like, go search it out. Make sure to talk to your doctor, because the energy that a simple breathing practice can create can actually create so much energy that if you have heart problems, pay attention to that. Consult your doctor before getting into like a real heavy breath work thing. That's not what I do. That's not what my podcast does. What my intentions behind breathing are, it's a little twofold. I want you to be able to stay in the now, like we talked about in the first 30 minutes. And that taking a deep breath is going to do that. I take in the beginning of any sort of if I'm going to sit down and breathing in through your nose and out through your mouth. It's a relaxing breath. It's also a cleansing breath. And I always just imagine cool, clear, crystal clear air coming into my nostrils. And then in my head, I imagine it going in this beautiful clear oxygen, going into my body and grabbing anything that doesn't serve me, tension, stress, anything like that, and literally leaving through my mouth. And you can imagine it leaving your mouth in a gray vapor, and just doing that 3 to 5 times. And then going back to just a normal breathing in and out through your nostrils. But instead of just breathing like you do every day, actually pay attention. What's happening to your lungs? What does it feel like for your lungs to expand and contract? What else happens? Your tummy probably expands and contracts. Your chest rises and falls. Sometimes people's shoulders move. Your skin stretches to accommodate your lungs expanding and back. And those are things you don't think of. But now I've just spent 3 minutes focused on what's happening to my breathing. So not only does that keep me totally present, it makes me aware of things that are happening with absolutely important to make any of the changes that we're talking about. Awareness is important to be able to take that 50,000 foot view and look and see the trees and see what's really happening here. Why am I reacting to what Donna just said to me? What is that? Is what she said true for me? No. Cool. Then it doesn't have anything to do with me. I can let it go and not react. Yeah, it is true. How do I feel about that? Do I want to make a change? Yeah, I do. Okay, so then I can diffuse whatever situation by recognizing my responsibility and what we're talking about and move forward instead of just reacting. I can take a breath. But me expecting you to be aware of what you're thinking and how you're feeling without you practicing that is ridiculous. It's like when people have to relearn how to walk. Imagine not needing to relearn how to walk. Imagine telling your muscles to extend or to take a step, and making that happen. That's a practice. Anyway, when you are breathing and you take this, have you ever noticed that, like, you breathed, Donna? So you tell me, what's your experience when you're running around and you're like, "Ooh, I need to take a couple of breaths." How do you physically feel after taking just 3 breaths?
More relaxed. I don't feel so tense.
Exactly.
I feel like I can think better,
Mm-hmm.
and I can make better decisions, more informed decisions.
Right. And why that is, there's a number of reasons. First of all, you're in the present moment. None of those distractions of what's going to happen next and next and next and tomorrow and the next week are in your head. You're right here and right now. But the other thing is that feeling of calm, that feeling of peace, that's because you are connecting to your inner being, to who you really are, without all of the people pleasing and all of the stress and all of the other things that we put up, and almost like a what is that called? Like a hologram of who we are, who we're supposed to be to the world. All of that comes down, and we connect to who we are inside. And that person knows nothing but love for you. That person knows nothing but peace. Things like anger, frustration, worry, anxiety don't reside there. Those are human emotions. Connect to our inner being or our souls. There's nothing but calm and peace there. And that is why 3 to 5 breaths and you feel like you're in a different place. And that's why it's so important, because the more you can be in tune with that person, who you really are. Remember, we talked about that little voice that leads you one way or the other. Let's pay attention. Let's connect to that voice a little bit, 3 minutes a day, and develop that relationship so that you hear that voice more and more and more, which not only means you're going to live a more fulfilling life, but you're actually being true to yourself and not the outside voices, the social media, the media itself, the governments, the religions, the people, all the stuff. You're being true to yourself and who you really are and who you came here to be. Mm-hmm. And that is what living is for. You know what I mean? Like, that makes living worthwhile, and not trying to fulfill everybody else's quota of what you should or shouldn't be.
I've had responses on social media before, and I just don't like to argue. It's just not my thing.
Right.
Because I know what I think and I know what that person thinks, whatever. So this is how I have, and I may have told you this before, this is how I react to that. Because some people will they just try to start something. I mean, they'll just taunt you and just to see if they can.
Yeah.
And so this one guy in particular, we went to school together, and so he's like believes totally different than I do. So every now and then he just comes on my Facebook page and he'll just say something. And I'll sit back. This is another thing. I don't like to dive into something in the moment.
Right.
Also, I will say the wrong thing. Well, it's because I've done it before.
Yeah.
So I've had the experience of saying something when I should have kept my mouth shut. And so I will sit back and I'll go, he's in the moment. He doesn't even know what he's saying. So what I will do, I will type something back in and I'll say, Dave, I'm not going to let this ruin our beautiful relationship. I love you. I'm not going to let it happen. Well, he'll try one or more times just to try to get me started. I think it's a challenge to him. He wants to see if he can.
Right.
So,
I'm going to get you someday, Donna.
One of these days. If that's his whole outlook on life, I feel honored. So anyway, he'll try it again. I'll sit back and I'll think, all right, now, do I want to? Yeah, I do want to, but I'm not gonna, because I still love him. So I will say, I still love you. I will type that in. I still love you. Then he goes, well, there's no point. And then he'll say, well, we're not going to be friends anymore. I'm going to take us off of friends on Facebook. And I'll say, well, I hate for that to happen because I love you. And I just keep saying, I love you over and over again.
You're so funny.
And he never leaves and goes anywhere. If something will come up, he'll wish me happy birthday or something.
Right.
And I could be a smart aleck, and I could say, well, I thought you were taking, and I don't. I receive it. I take it back. He is wishing me a happy birthday. He
Yeah.
doesn't hate me.
Well, and even if he did, it doesn't have anything to do with you. It's him. And that's the thing that it's a human thing. And so there's no fault, and we all do it.
Mhm.
Everything is about us. If somebody says something to you that is in a disagreement or is not in disagreement with your beliefs, we take it personally. It's what we are, it's how we're built. But when you can take that 50,000 foot view and say, is that true? Is that true for me? No, then it's not about me. It's about this person feeling the need to vent their thing. It has nothing to do with me. Even if somebody's mad at me for my behavior, it doesn't have anything to do with me. They are mad at me. Where do I come in? You know what I mean? Now, if my behavior is something that I look at and say, okay, they're upset with me because I did something, do I need to change my behavior? And if the answer is no, like let's say I just had an opinion that they disagreed with, or let's say that I even said, hey, I'm not cool with that. Don't talk to me that way. And they got mad for keeping my boundary. Do I want to change that? No. So, okay, you can be mad. That has nothing to do with me because I held my boundary.
Mm-hmm.
It has nothing to do with me. And so then I have to let that go. And if they can't get over it, then I, who I am, my boundaries and all, wasn't important enough to that person. And so I can let that relationship go. But if not, and I can send them all the love in the world, but I don't have to reduce my boundaries in order to keep somebody in my life. Mm-hmm. And if I look at my behavior and say, ooh, I did overstep, just like I said before, I could say, you know what, you're right. Here's what I'm going to do to make sure that I don't do that again. Mm-hmm. Thank you for bringing that to my attention. And you can apologize if you need to. I would caution, don't rush to apologize. Take a minute. Make sure you're sorry. Mm-hmm. And if you are, fantastic. But sorry isn't just a word. And this is something that I feel very strongly about. How many times have you been treated poorly by someone and they say you're sorry and you say it's okay, which we'll come back to, and they do it again and then they say you're sorry and you say it's okay, and all of a sudden, and by the fourth or fifth time, you're like, the hell? Why? Sorry isn't just a word. Sorry means I've done something wrong and I'm going to change my behavior. Mm-hmm. Don't just say you're sorry. Make a change. Don't treat me that way again. Make sure that doesn't happen again. Mm-hmm. And so if you're willing to make that change, then you can say, I'm sorry, and here's how I'm going to make sure that doesn't happen again. Mm-hmm. And then the other thing I want to say is when we come to apologies, we teach our children to say, it's okay. I'm sorry. What do you say? It's okay. No. If somebody has wronged you to the point where they need to apologize, whatever they did probably isn't okay. Mm-hmm. You don't have to be okay with the things that happen to you. You can forgive someone. You can accept someone's apology because that actually does more good for you than it does for them. Mm-hmm. And I can say, you know what? I forgive you. Or how about somebody says, I'm sorry. And I say, thank you. Thank you for apologizing and recognizing your bad behavior. Now let's see if you'll make a difference or if you're just going to apologize again. And then I get to decide how I want to set my boundaries around that going forward. You don't have to accept. And even when we forgive someone, I've got pretty massive trauma in my life from my childhood, but I've gotten to a point where I've completely forgiven my father. Do I forgive the things he did to me? No, they're abhorrent. No one in their right mind would ever forgive those or make those okay. Mm-hmm. But they are not him. I forgive him. What he did wasn't right. I didn't say, oh, it's okay. No.
Do it again.
It's not okay. No, it's not okay. But I understand that you weren't capable of being the father that I needed. And so I forgive the human in you who wasn't capable of being a father, who never should have been a father in the first place. But I'm really glad you were, because hello. Exactly. So when we come into forgiveness and apologies and stuff like that, it's about behavior. You don't have to accept the behavior. You can accept the person for being human and tell them, cool, I appreciate you apologizing to me. I appreciate you acknowledging this. Let's make sure that doesn't happen again.
Let me ask you another question. This came through an email, and I'm kind of paraphrasing it just a little bit because it was a very lengthy one.
Yeah, sure.
So, and I appreciate it. Continue sending those emails.
I love it too.
Absolutely. But this is what it was about. It was about when and this was a husband and wife here. And it can also work with Facebook, your differing opinions on whatever.
Right.
This is what it was. She said that he taunts her.
Mm-hmm.
And so she said there was a time that she would argue back. And then he would come on stronger. It's like the argument would just keep getting stronger and stronger and stronger. She feels like she has more power now that she's not giving into that.
Mm-hmm.
She just looks at him and she just says, "No, that's your opinion. Fine." So are you giving someone more power when you argue back, or are you giving them less power when you're the one who says, I'm not going to let you come inside my head?
Right. I'm going to answer that question with a question. And I want to think, if we imagine ourselves, all of us in that scenario, what does it feel like when you argue back and then they come back even stronger? How do you feel? You start, your heart beats faster. You start to breathe faster. Like we were talking about when we see people in the grocery store who are like hyperventilating, and you just want to tell them to take a breath. Yeah. You start to have that reaction. How does that feel? It feels like crap. Mm-hmm. And that's because you're literally feeding into whatever it is that's happening and giving them your power. When somebody makes you mad, you are giving them your power. You're saying, you know what? Here, I'm out of control. You have control of this situation. And what you've said to me has taken away my control. I'm giving it to you, literally. Mm-hmm. Instead of holding on to my power and saying, I'm not going to let your crazy behavior upset me. That's me being in my power. That's me being whole and complete and true. And so when somebody baits me, regardless of how close we are, I'm standing with my power by saying, interesting. That's your perspective and not mine. Mm-hmm. I will say that if that is a continual behavior, it also doesn't feel good to keep your mouth shut, because here we are again, and he's baiting me again, or she's baiting me again. Mm-hmm. And here we are again. This is the same thing. And so that's where I would encourage you to draw a boundary and say, you know what? This keeps coming up. And I know that you want me to argue with you, but I'm not gonna anymore. You know, I don't feel that way. So I would really appreciate it if you would stop bringing this up. Mm-hmm. We don't see eye to eye on that. And yet I love you and you love me. So we don't have to see eye to eye on it. And rather than create some issues, let's keep the peace. Stop bringing this up, because it makes me feel like you don't respect me and my opinions when you keep bringing that up. That's how that makes me feel. And so, or that's how this behavior is affecting me, is it's bringing on these feelings. Mm-hmm. And I don't want those feelings to come between us, because I love you. And I think that's really important too. So yes, I would absolutely agree that she's standing in her power by not participating in that. But I think she would stand in her power even more if she drew some boundaries and said, hey, let's knock this off. Obviously not in those words, but knock it off.
Not at me, but knock it off. But I totally agree with you, because when you're arguing back with someone and it's a lost cause, you're never going to change their minds.
Right.
When it's a lost cause, I have relatives like that. And it's like they'll taunt you and they want you just to, the best thing to do is just, stand your, what your beliefs are, and don't go there, because again, they have more practice at it than I do. And always going to come one bigger than I am, because that's all they study. Right. People down. And that's just,
you can respond. You don't have to keep quiet. You can say, you know what? I love the fact that we can have different opinions. I love the fact that you are so staunchly in your opinion, and so am I, and yet we still love each other. Mm-hmm. Let's not talk about this right now, because I'm not going to convince you. You're not going to convince me. Let's just know that we have different opinions about this and move on.
Well, I got to tell you, when it comes to Phil and me, we have both grown. I am probably a card-toting Auburn fan. He's a card-toting Alabama fan. But this is how we've grown in this, because there was a time that he would say, I'm from Alabama, and whoever's playing Auburn. And I would
Yeah.
say, well, then I'm for Auburn and whoever's playing Alabama. So now we've both reached this compromise where if it looks as if Auburn is going to be number one, well,
Mhm.
then in the long run, we're both going to pull for Auburn because it's within our state. I'm the
Absolutely.
same way with Alabama. I mean, I've been pulling for Alabama when Auburn's had a lousy football team. So I pull for them,
Yeah.
because I would rather my state win.
Right.
I
Right.
have a sister who says, I'm for Alabama and whoever's playing Auburn. And I'll say, even if it's Notre Dame, and she'll say, yeah, I'll pull for Notre Dame before I'll ever pull for Auburn. And I'm just sitting there thinking how unhealthy that is.
Well, I mean, abstinence is not something that we want to like focus on. I do want to say real quick though, because we keep talking about anger and some of these things, and I think it's really important to remember that we're trained from early on that some of these what are called negative emotions are evil, that anger is evil, that fear and guilt and all of these things are negative, or they're dark and they're in your shadow and all this stuff. And so we put this really negative thing about it, but I want to challenge that and maybe shift your perspective a little bit, because anger is your ally. When you feel angry, it's literally your body's mechanism that says, whoo, something here to look at.
Mm-hmm.
Something that they just said. Maybe it was the tone of their voice. Maybe it was the tone of the email. Maybe it was the words they used. Whatever it was, something in there triggered you. Take a look at that. Don't react and get mad right back, and act in anger, but accept the anger and think like, ooh, I'm angry about that. I wonder why.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting. And you can use anger as a tool to help you resolve things. You can use fear. Fear is my friend. Fear gets me through the things that I find scary.
Mm-hmm.
It's because I recognize there's fear and I go, ooh, fear. Okay, let's do this. Let's do this together. Hold my hand because I'm obviously afraid. Let's go. I know I'm not alone because fear is here with me. So I can do this and I can get through this.
Absolutely.
And so I would encourage you to shift your perspective on those things that we've always looked at as dark and evil and negative, and see how we can use them to help us. I'm angry. I wonder why. What about this conversation has me so heightened? What do I need to do to protect myself? Do I? Or do I just need to kind of go through some of my background stuff, some of my history, and kind of deal with that so that I don't get angry about somebody saying something silly or using a tone of voice with me that really has nothing to do with me? Because what happens is when we get angry and we fill ourselves up with that angry energy, anything that comes our way is going to have angry energy. Our tone of voice, the tone of our email, the words we use. 9.5 times out of 10, if someone is coming at you, it's about what's going on with them and whatever anger they're carrying.
You're spot on. We're going to have to call it a day. I'm going to leave it with this. I think we all should be more like Mr. Rogers from Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood.
100%.
I loved that guy. I loved that would calm me down when I was a kid growing up. So, I love Mr. Rogers.
I watched it in high school.
The guy who paints, what's his name?
Bob Ross.
Yeah, Bob Ross. We could be a little bit more like those two. We're going to make a friend in the forest. Okay, there you go.
And LeVar Burton, Reading Rainbow.
There you go. Julia, thank you so much for being with me.
Thank you so much.
It's always a pleasure. And hang around so we can get our next date set up.
Yeah, sure.
Thank you guys so much for watching. We definitely appreciate that. Any emails, please send them on. I love them all. Even if you critique me, that's fine. I'll take it. Donna at donnasedge.com. You take care. Bye-bye.